Okay, so today I am doing basically a short tutorial, a small tutorial on how to convert over uh, hair. So the reason for this, right, is because someone is actually asking me regarding how to actually do a conversion for for the hair. Basically, how to get the rigging from Blender into Dust 3D. So this is what I'll be showing down here. So uh, and at the same time I can also show a little bit on how I do the rigging, because okay, so what you have on screen right now, right, is basically I'm doing actually converting the Mominji model. So what happened is that this hair is the DOA 6 model, and they are using some kind of a like driver, mesh driver. Used to be there's a mesh down here. I actually deleted that mesh because it's not necessary, or rather there's no way to actually convert it over to Blender or subsequently to Dust. The technology is not there. I mean, I don't really know how to use it. So what happens, right, what will happen is that I will be converting this. So the front part, which is down here, will be uh, will be translated over via MMD to be readable in thus the rigging, while the ponytail will not, because they basically do not have any vertex groups. So because of this, right, I will have to manually rig the ponytail. So I'll show you guys how to do both ends, both sides. That means to say how to convert over the hair, or how to convert a rig object in Blender over to Dust Studio, and then how to do a simple rigging inside Dust. Okay, so I'll first delete off this part because they are no way to transfer them over. Okay, so as per the clothing tutorial, okay, if you watch that one, you should know already. You need to convert over the inside the MMD using the MMD importer. Oh, actually, did I cover that? I'm actually not very sure. I can't remember. I'm sorry. Okay, so in case I did not cover this, basically what happens, right, is that if you have a rigged object that you want to convert over into Dust Studio, you will need to convert it first. So you have to have the MMD importer exporter. That one you should be able to find it quite easily if you do a Google search for it. So I'm not going to show you. So what happens is that after that you just need to select the hair. Okay, like for example, if I select all the hair and then I do a convert material, convert model, then they will actually put in a new MMD model down here, so you can save this as a MMD file after that, right? So this is what we'll do. We'll just uh, select all the mesh and then export as a XMX, PMX. So it's a MMD model. Okay, so the thing that you need to take note of, right, is the scaling that is different. So MMD model has a very weird scaling. I did some experimentation, and turns out that on my set, my scale is 11.76. This I get this number by trial and error. I just import the thing, and then I scale the object inside Dust up and down until I get it fairly close to what the size is supposed to be, and this is the number. Actually it's much longer. 7647. So 11.7647. So this is roughly the range. So you will have to do your own experimentation, because I actually taught this method to someone else, and their skill is a little bit different, right? So that actually depends on what kind of skill you're working on as well. So for my end, I'm actually working at 1%. So that means to say, if Dust Studio is 100%, their figure is 100%. Um, when I import it to Blender, I'm actually importing at 1%, because 100% is a little bit too big, right? And most model, if you import from XPS, XNS, I'm sorry, uh, XNA LoRa model, then they are roughly at that scale, which is to say a 1% of Dust Studio scale. So this is the reason why I'm using that scale. But if you find that you're working, you work more in 100% scale, then by all means go ahead. But you have to adjust the scale from there, right? So this is the scale that I'm using right now. So you just need to save it. So I actually have it saved already. Actually, I did halfway before I realized that I forgot to do a recording. So this is the reason why I am doing the recording now. Okay, so next you go to um, Dust Studio. Oh yeah, before I forget, you also want to export a OBJ file. So OBJ does not have any rigging, right? But if you are dealing with shape keys, it is necessary to use OBJ instead of MMD because MMD is a bit trickier. So it's much easier if you do OBJ. Okay, so after you have this, let me open up my Mominji file. I have her more done halfway actually. The skin, the clothing, and the morphs are actually all inside already. So now I will show you how to import the hair. Okay, so we have a Mominji figure right here. Okay, so first thing first is import the XPS. So you need to have the XPS importer. Unfortunately, I cannot share this importer. Basically, uh, the last time I tried to share this importer, the author contacted me and told me not to do so. So unfortunately, I am not able to provide this importer. You have to find it somewhere else, right? So, but if you do have the importer, this is the steps that you take. Basically, there is nothing to configure in the importer, so you just import it directly, right? So if your scale is correct, you should get the model roughly the same place as where it is supposed to be, right? If your scale is not, then you have to do the adjustment of the scale here, and then find out what's the scale here. Say for example, if my scale is at 1%, sorry, at 100% or at 1, it'll be a very small model down here. So you scale it up, and roughly you get what's the size. You convert it over down here, then you save a preset of the size, so that the next time when you export it, you'll be able to get the proper scale every time, right? So after that, you can just continue from here. So the next thing is to import the OBJ as well. So you see that there actually is an overlap because they're basically the same model, only that one has a rigging, which is the MMD model, which is, as far as I can tell, the only way to get the rigging into the model, right? And then the other one is the Mominji hair, which is the OBJ that has no rigging. So first thing you do is to do a transfer utility to transfer the MMD model rigging to the OBJ rigging. So current, and then I am not sure whether this does anything. I actually have no idea, but when I click it, they seems to give better results. So that's the reason why I'm using that, right? So then you want to remove this one, feed to source and also parent to source, to parent to source figure. So what this two does, right, is that they actually feed to the, for example, if you're transferring the MMD model to this OBJ, then the OBJ will actually be parent under the MMD, which is not what you want, because you want it to parent to the Genesis 8 figure instead. So you deselect these two and click accept, and they will actually run through the transfer utility. And what you end up with is a OBJ file that has all these bones selected. Okay, so next is go to the join editor tool. I always forget this step and it causes a bit of problem, so make sure you remember this step, right? What you want to do is to do an align, I'm sorry, keep this selected, join join editor tool, right click edit, and I'm sorry, right click align all bones, so you get all the bones that will be aligned properly. Okay, this one is not very clear because basically all the bones are actually up and down. But if you load anything that has an angle, or like for example you import a figure or something, you will get the bones aligned properly this way, right? And next is to right click and memorize figure rigging. Very important. Okay, so what this does is that this basically locks in the rigging alignment. So you won't, like for example, you save this model and then after when you reopen it, the alignment will go haywire sometimes. So what the memorize rigging does is that it will lock it down here to the you you'll lock all the values. So for example, in this particular bone, the value will all be grayed out. That means to say these are the new default, right? So once that happens, that is basically quite safe. Okay, so in my case, I will want to remove all these bones because it is not necessary. I actually deleted them just now. I have no idea why they came back. So unfortunately for Dust, there is no way to copy, select everything and delete them all this way. So no way to do that. So you have to delete them one by one. So you delete the bones and one by one delete. No choice. Okay, so I'll also be doing a little bit of reorganization. That means to say I will be renaming some of these bones in order to better differentiate what exactly am I looking at. Of course, you can also do the renaming in Blender, but I forgot to do that. So that's why I'm doing it now. Anyway, it's a good chance to show you how to do all this renaming and whatnot inside Dust. So in the future, if it's required, you can do it yourself basically. Okay, so if you go to the viewport, right click and edit rename node, rename node. So this is the one that you want. So you just need to rename both of these, right? So for example, in this one, I will do hair root. Okay, so you just need to rename both. Okay, so you can't like rename only one. For example, if I rename this one only upper neck, for example, I can do that. But if you go to the rename tool, you'll notice that the label is named differently, but the node name is not. So if you are okay with having both is different, then by all means go ahead. You can just click on this part and you can rename him faster. Yeah, but for me, I like things a little bit neater, so this is the reason why I do the right click rename part. Okay, so this is the hair left, and so okay, so I'll just go through this. This is and hair right. Okay, so these are all the bones renamed. Then if you come to the geometry editor, you'll see the face group and all that is different. So if you want, you can also edit all this. What this does is basically if you go to the bones selection, you will see the selection group. So it's the name of the selection groups down here, right? So not really that important, but if you are like me, then OCD, you want to get everything done as aligned as possible. So that's how you go about it. So this one is here. Left. Okay, so something like that. And then the surface as well. Uh, because this is a rip from DOA, so the names are all non-indicative. So same thing, you can actually do a rename in Blender or you can rename them here in Dust. Either way is fine, right? So hair tie. Of course, if you rename them in Blender, if you do for example, if you make a mistake down here and you want to re-import the entire model, it's easier because if you do that here, the model that you're going to re-import, there's to say the model that's exported from Blender does not have this information, so you have to redo them again, right? But if you are fairly certain that the object is done already, then you can just go ahead here. Okay, so this is our hair front. This is okay, so something like that. So if you go to the surface tab, you will see that the names are all changed, right? So next you want to put in the textures. So in my case, I have the textures down here already. If you don't have them, you have to move the textures from wherever you have them. Okay, so I will just normally I put the glossy color to 0 because otherwise it is very shiny, right? So if I don't, say for example, if I don't put to 0, you can see the parts down here is pretty shiny. So like so, it looks like plastic. Okay, so for this reason, I normally put the glossy color to 0. Okay, so next is the normal maps, and then if required, a cutout map. So if for the hair case, you usually have some kind of a cutout so that they can have their streaky transparencies, so to speak. And that's basically it. That's for the most basics of the hair. So if you want them to do funky things like shine, you have to play around with the options down here. So glossy color is usually a good thing for that because that basically is the thing that will make it shiny. Okay, so normal maps. Okay, so something like that. Okay, so now you got the hair in. So if you do a selection down here, and select the hair and move them around. Right, so basically the rigging that was in the game or that was done in a Blender or whatever will actually be transferred over to the model inside dust down here, right? So you can mix around, but the hair at the back, you can't do that. You only have the main root. So the reason for that is because it's actually there is no bones inside there. So next, what you want to do, right, is if you have this basically applies to anything. Like for example, if you have a clothing that has I don't know, a front skirt or something, you can use this method to add additional bones to deal with that, right? So how you go about it is you identify the root. In this case, I have a root file here. So next you do a create, right click, make sure you are in the bone, the joint editor. Okay, so right click, create, and create child bone. Okay, so you can add in the name. So for this case, I want to be a ponytail 01. Copy and rotation order. Uh, Usually the Y X Z is the up down option. So depending on which one you want it to be from, right? They usually for the up down, this kind of up down or hair, I will usually use this Y X Z rotation order. Uh, Different purposes will require different rotation orders, so you can experiment around with that as well. Okay, so accept, you have the new bones down here. So what you need to do next is to actually move them into position. So in this case, you want them somewhere here for your first bone. So for example, because the hair is flowing this way, you want the bone to be somewhere around here. Next is alignment, auto align. Do this if you are putting in new bones. It will make it easier for you, say, because this will basically do a auto align for you, right? So you just move the things a little bit, move the hair about here. Okay, so the good thing is because this hair is centered, so that's why you can use a side view and get it done. If it is off to the side, either side, excuse me. So if it's off to either side, then you have to do the adjustment from the front angle as well. Okay, so this is the first bone. Okay, so there are a few ways you can go about it. One is if you have a fairly, for example, you only have one mesh, then what you can do is you go to Tools, um, Brush, General Weights. So this will actually select the weights, and then you can use the geometry selection to select the geometry and basically increase it to maybe say here, right? Something like that. Right click, weight editing, field selection, 100%. Okay, then move it a little bit more and weight selection, smooth selection. In this case, I have a preset for 50% and 20 times. So what it does is that you'll repeat the 50% operation 20 times. Okay, so that's how they go about it. And if you go to there, you can rotate. There you go, something like that, right? So then you can do a little bit of a cleanup here. And you've got your first thing rigged. Ponytail 1. And that's done. So that's one way to do it. And of course, you have to repeat for all the bones along the entire ponytail. So if you have one mesh, you can do that. But now we have something like 6 or 7 overlapping mesh. So if you're gonna use the method that I just showed you, it's gonna be a little bit messy. So what you can do, right, is you can do this. You can use the ponytail, rotate the ponytail a little bit out. So in this case, let me just remove the rigging that I did just now. So field selection 100%, 0%. Geometry, select all, weight selection, fill 0%. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. Okay, so oh dear. Oops. Okay, let's not mess around with this anymore. Okay, that will just imagine, try to imagine that this is not like that. Okay, so what you can do then, if you have so many overlapping mesh, is that you can go to the node selection after you do the rotation. So in this case, if you look at the joint, the bone is pointing in a upwards direction, so is actually being rotated. Okay, so after that, go to the geometry editor, right? General weights, and then use this one. So this is the paintbrush. Okay, so what happens is that you can actually do a paint over to paint all the layers at one shot. So if I do the sensitivity to 100, then they will actually basically just shoot up straight. So that's what I will do. I will just one shot everything over to roughly around here, just a little bit below. If you look at the bones, just a little bit below that. Okay, then if you hold down the control button, you'll actually go to the smoothing side. So the settings are actually here. I put at 0.5%. So that seems to work out pretty well for me. And I'm not sure what happened to the hair. Why is the hair moved? Oh dear. This. Okay. Yep, I'm not sure what happened, but yeah. Anyway. So selection, to selection, and paint. So you just go to paint and smoothen it out a little bit. We say 0.5 as well, right? So this way you can actually smooth out large parts of the model fairly quickly, like so. So you have a whole bunch of the model, and you can block them out like that very quickly. Okay. So something like that. You get the idea. Okay. Then what you want to do is you come to this geometry editor, right? And then add in all the parts that you just added. Actually, you can just select them all. And then deselect just the top. Okay, so this will be your selection. Then go to geometry, create face group, and put in the ponytail one. And then go to the join editor, okay, selection group, and select ponytail one. So what this does, right, is that if you're in normal mode, you can actually do a selection now. Same as if you select the hair from here just now and select the ponytail here, because now you have a selection group that you can do so, right? So let me put this back down. So in the future, you can do a bit of move this thing, the entire hair will move. So smoothen it out a bit more. Okay, so something like that. And since you have this all selected, the other way is to wet select and smooth selection. You can do that as well. Yeah. So okay, then next, just rinse and repeat. So you zero out this option, then you go to the join editor and insert or create new bones. So create child bones, ponytail number 2, and move it into position, something like that, like that. Okay, then move the bones out, and then go to the geometry editor. In this case, since you already have a fairly good you have a fairly good selection, you can do the first method. Just make sure everything is selected properly. Okay, wait, select, send, and then move up a little bit, smooth, and okay, so move it back here. And create group. So ponytail number 2, accept, 2, zero it out. Okay, so for ponytail, right, at this point, because this is the curve, so you got your this is the root, then your first joint, second joint. Down here, you can actually do it a little bit longer. So you create your third joint here. So entirely up to you. If you want to have more joints inside here, but generally at this kind of length, long length, I usually just put in a longer piece. So something like that, roughly. Okay, so I go back here and I move down a little bit. Do selection, 100%. I'm sorry, general weights selection. it up a little bit. Usually 3 or 4 clicks is or 3 or 4 times is good enough. Okay, and smoothen it out, then test it. Okay, then next create again, detail number 4, next, and down. Okay, so in this case we actually have a natural terminating line, which is the hair down here. So you look at the mesh down here, you actually have a line here. So you can put your bones roughly around the end of that line. And the next one will be one more here and one more here. So you have total of 6 bones in this ponytail. Okay, and just the selection as per normal. Okay, then basically you just need to repeat the steps over and over until you get the result that you want. So in this case, it's something like that. Oops, did I forget to do the selection? Yes, I forgot to do the selection. My bad. So, yeah, selection. Okay, so that is basically how you set up a manual or customized skeleton, and the basics, the very basics of rigging in Rust. Of course, there are a lot of other tricks and different ways to go about it. I do not know most of them. In fact, most of the rigging that I do is usually manually done, like similar to what I'm doing down here. So there might be a ton of tricks that exist, but I do not know about them. If you know them, let me know so that I can increase my repertoire and work faster. Honestly, I am way behind in schedule. So anything that will make me work faster or let me do more in less time, it's always welcome. But otherwise, that is basically the very basics of how to get a rigged model into Dust Studio, and also a little bit on how to do the rigging yourself, right? So with this, I'll end this tutorial. Hopefully this is helpful to you. If then let me know if you have anything else you want to learn. I'll be glad to share if I know. If not, I will figure it out. Or alternatively, if you have anything that you can teach me, go ahead and let me know so that I can learn more. They always say, it's always better to learn. What they call that? What was the quote again? You don't really stop learning. When you stop learning, you stop living, or something like that, right? So because of this, you just let me know if you have anything that you can that can let me improve, right? Or if not, you ask whatever questions that you have, or anything you do not know and you want me to explain to you. If I know how to do it, I will certainly do so, right? So with this, I'll end this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.